Government or our professional associations don't care where we get the jobs or how we get the jobs. We're expected to pay our dues, pay subscriptions, pay our taxes. But there is no system that tells us this is how, if you graduate, when you graduate, so, you know that there is a guarantee that you will find a job where you are living or where you are working. Architect Olushola is my name. My name is Olanrewaju Olusola.
He is one of Africa's most accomplished voices in architecture and project management. From founding Creation Consult in 1997 to leading groundbreaking projects like the US Embassy in Abuja.
Whether you're an architect, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, surveyor, civil engineer, everything wraps around construction. It's one thing to construct, it's another thing to construct well. And it's another thing to construct right. Construct well is different from construct right.
Architect Olanrewaju Olusola has spent over 2 decades shaping the built environment across Nigeria and beyond. A true Pan-African visionary, he has represented architects at the American Institute of Architects, AIA, International Union of Architects, UIA, and Africa Union of Architects, AUA, bridging global networks and local impact.
Do everything right first time. There is no room for a second chance. That will make you do things right.
Today, as Partner Success Manager for PMICP in Sub-Saharan Africa, he is empowering the next generation of professionals to think beyond design and lead through excellence, innovation, and strategy.
If I have my way, every architect will be in one single firm in Nigeria. You can hardly find an architect who does not have a job. Please quote me.
This is the story of a man redefining architecture through leadership, management, and vision.
What was your studio life like a week before final jury in school?
Don't ask me. That's a question you don't want to have an answer to. Are you sure you won't have an answer to?
Obviously.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Architect Olanrewaju Olusola.
In order to draw up my plan as a project management consultant for that next phase, and I approached the client that, look, I need to know your budget for this next phase. And then the next thing I got when I was discussing with the client told me,
Welcome to Architect's Corner. We are grateful to have you in this episode of our interview session. Welcome again to Architect's Corner.
thank you.
So before we start, it will be interesting for you to share your journey, especially when you mentioned sometime that at 22, you were still in college, and at 24, you graduated, and you didn't get licensed until 42. We would like to know how that journey panned and what inspired you to even remain in the profession and to get to the stage of becoming a project manager.
Good, very, very good question. Thank you. But there's a little bit of a background to that story, which I think I shared on LinkedIn at some time ago. I saw that someone was celebrating her getting licensed in the United States of America at a very young age.
Yeah.
And that was intriguing for me, and I congratulated her. And I just thought I should share my little experience in that direction, that it's not always that easy. So she should count herself lucky to have, gotten that at that very young age. But when I was her age, I was still in college. And by the time I graduated, perhaps 3 years later, I began to work. Now, what informs all those kind of journey more for me is the landscape, the enabling environment. All right, that's actually what informs that kind of journey. If you don't have, if you have your own kind of story concerning your enabling environment, it will determine your trajectory.
Right.
It will determine how fast you can move or how slow
You
you
can
can move. It will determine your pace generally towards your career achievements and all of that. So without saying all the dirty parts of one's challenges and all of that, which everybody has their
Yeah.
own story to tell. I think it's something that speaks to the enabling environment that allows you to do things at your young age. I mean, look at a recent happening, a recent feat that was also achieved in the United Kingdom in our professional landscape, where we had the very first black person
Right.
to become the president of the RIBA and the youngest in the history of 150-year-old organization in the western part of the world.
Exactly.
All right. So, and this young person, apart from being young, was not just young, but a worker in a construction firm. A worker in a construction firm, though an architect, became the president by virtue of an enabling environment. So that was why I congratulated the young lady, and she said, I asked her to count herself lucky.
So, sir, what was architecture for you, especially from studentship through career? How has it been? When I say how has it been, I mean how was the journey, especially for a young architect who is watching this right now and they are thinking, how did he get licensed after a couple of decades? Is this going to still be my journey or?
Okay, like I said, everyone has a story to tell.
Right.
So you even in the landscape you find yourself, you still find people who graduate and get licensed 2-3 years after.
Right.
All right. So I'm not saying that the landscape makes everyone to follow a particular path. What I'm trying to say is that where you find yourself and the path you find being charted for you determines how fast you go. And my path is not being charted for me by the regulatory authorities or by the association. No, I mean, it's life. So that is a path I found myself to have gone through. I proudly always say that I wanted to be an architect right from when I was in high school. So that's actually is what has kept me in the profession this long and will still keep me beyond now. Because right from when I was in Form 3, I made up my mind that it's architecture I want to study. Not because I knew any architect at that time, or I had someone, a particular architect I was looking up to. No, not a single one.
Wow.
But I wanted to be an architect based on my study of that book we used to call syllabus back in the day. I don't know if they still produce that book any longer. And I was preparing myself towards going to college in my mind, because I knew that in the next 2 years I'll be out of secondary school.
Right.
And then, okay, so what's next for me? I had to decide what's next for me. And when I went through my strengths, I mean, I even learned SWOT analysis right from youth through native intelligence. not because I knew anything about SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
But through native intelligence, I began to look at my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, and my threats. And that made me say, oh, I think I want to go for this. And based on the SWOT analysis. All right. So if you put everything together, you now probably have a full answer to that question. I mean, I knew my strengths. I knew my weaknesses. I knew what opportunities were available to me. And I knew what threats that could be in my way. All right. So I picked my path through that SWOT analysis. And at that time, I knew nothing about SWOT analysis. Believe me. I didn't know anything about SWOT analysis.
Wow.
But that path was created. Apparently, at the end of the day, many years later, when I began to understand what SWOT analysis meant, I'm like, okay, yeah, that was what I did back then, you know.
Yeah.
So anyone, even in our landscape, things have gone a lot better than what they were before during our younger days, all right? But anyone can decide, even after you graduate right now, you can decide to stay 10, 20 years before you get licensed. And you can decide to do it in 2 years. It is possible. The landscape is there, but create your path, all right? Determine what are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And then you will give yourself the answer to when I want to get licensed or not. And I want to believe that perhaps that was what the kind of thing that that young lady did in the US. She probably, and there are still people in the US who, in the same US, who have not been licensed after 10, 15 years.
Right.
So it's not about the climate, it's about the environment you find yourself and doing your SWOT analysis.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for that response. For someone who is just clicking on this video and they are asking, who am I speaking with? Sir, can you tell us about yourself? Who is Architect Olushola?
Okay, briefly, thank you. Architect Olushola is my name. My name is Olanrewaju Olusola. I've been an architect for about 37 years. And I am a professional architect, chartered architect, and a professional project management consultant. I latched on to project management early in life as an architect. I do construction project management. So most of my work after the early years of practice as an architect, in fact, almost from the beginning of the early years of my practice as an architect, I was opportune to be working on projects as a protege project manager. And of course, I began to learn the ropes of project management through the firm that I was privileged to work with for about 15 years before I began to work for myself and all of that. So that's what I do, and I have done that from Abuja in many parts of the country and outside the country. You know, privileged to work and do things beyond Nigeria and that. And of course, I have my family here. I built my family from Abuja, and we're happy to be everywhere in the world right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's because what we're going to be talking about today is construction project management and funding for architecture projects. So you mentioned you've been practicing for 37 years. And since you founded Creation Consult in 1997, long before it was even fashionable to talk about quality management, you said you were a prodigy from from your youth. What drove you to start, and what doubts did you have, especially in the earlier years?
Okay. Well, life is filled with privileges. what is important is to know how to take those privileges. I was privileged to work with an architecture firm that was one of the best in the country.
Wow.
And I say that with all humility. Best, especially in professionalism. In that area, I worked with a firm right from when I was a youth corper. I did my youth service with that firm. And I continued working with that firm for another 14 years before I came out. And it was during my working with that firm that I registered my firm, Creation Consult, while I was working with that firm after, a couple of years. And I did that because I was preparing myself for what's next. All right. And in Nigeria, you rarely find professional organizations that are almost like, let me use the word perpetuated, that last for too long or for very long. Rarely. They do exist, but they are rare.
Right.
All right. And that's another story for another day. But while I was working with this firm, it is the knack for professionalism that I imbibed in this firm that led me to this idea when I was starting my own. And I said, on what basis or what foundation do I want to place my career and the career of whatever outfit, organization that I find myself in? I don't believe in everybody must run their own firm. If I did, I wouldn't have stayed with that firm for 15 years. All right. I believe in building career together, building the future, building the country, building everything together. All right. If I have my way, every architect will be in one single firm in Nigeria. You know what I mean? With that kind of mindset. Like, let's all work together and then continue to spread together and, spread the joy of professionalism. But that's not possible. All right. And at the same time, you see too many pockets of tiny firms. Everybody, in fact, these days, many graduates come out and the next thing they're starting their own firm. And that is another terrible thing that is happening in our landscape. All right. So there is no training, there is no patience for learning the job, learning the rope, and also building with those who have gone ahead of us or of you. So I did that. I worked with a firm where professionalism is all we do. We do nothing but professionalism. Everything we do speaks of professionalism in the way we work, the way we interact with our colleagues, with allied professionals, with our clients, with customers, with government. Everything is professionally done. And I'm proud to be a product of such things. And that's what led me to say total quality management is a paradigm for me. Total quality management is a paradigm for me. And it's based on that paradigm that I set up my firm, and anything that I'm doing has to speak to total quality management. Proficiency. I call it right first time. RTF is an RTF, principles. Right first time, do everything right first time. There is no room for a second chance. Don't give yourself that room for a second chance. Even if others give you the room, do not give yourself a room for a second chance. That will make you do things right from the get-go. So that's why I call it right first time. I think that speaks a lot to that question about
Yeah.
what led me to that total quality management principle.
Exactly. Thank you so much, sir, for that response. And I like the idea of right first time. Yes, I'll keep that in mind. So now let's go right into the construction management aspect of this conversation. What do construction project managers actually do? And how can one become a construction project manager, especially from the lens of an architect? Any tips on making that successful transition?
Honestly, I have a lot to say when I hear these kind of questions. Growing up as an architect, I discovered there are different kinds of architects.
Okay.
Yeah, it's different kinds of architects. So I'm going to tee off from there to go into construction management and how it aligns with being an architect and how you can marry both. So there are different kinds of architects. I discovered in my journey there are architects who just want to design. There are architects who just want to sit in the office.
Right.
There are architects who find themselves on the field all the time. There are architects who just want to be merchants. Merchants in the sense that they are businessmen. And guess what? They are the best. You will know why I said so later. The architects who are the merchants, for me, are the best because they have gone into an area that is very sensitive and we rarely speak about in the profession, which is finance, which I think we'll get to sometime later.
Right.
But so where you work, where you find yourself growing, determines which of these architects you become and what interests you have when you start growing like that. I remember when I engaged some people for one of my projects, the Sun City project, where I was project management consultant. I had to engage architects, builders, and all of that to work in the team with me. And I remember clearly telling one of them, I said, if you want to make money, don't be an architect. But if you want to build a career, then you are in the right place. All right. So it now makes it look like, oh, do I have to make a choice between career and making money?
Exactly.
Well, that's what it seems, especially with the fact that we were not trained to really be hands-on about financing. Look at our landscape. How much do architects earn against what they told us when we were in school or what we thought we knew when we were in school? They told us architects are the highest paid. Then you get out here, nobody even recognizes you. They call you engineer. And yet you are supposed to be the highest paid.
Exactly.
So how come when we came out of school, nobody recognizes us? When we were in school, we thought we were going to be the star. Do you understand? So there is no correlation there. All right. And the reason why there is no correlation is because we do not know the business of architecture. The business of architecture, not architect. We know architecture, but we don't know the business of architecture. All right. So when we get to that finance part, I'll talk about the business of architecture. So, construction project management.
Yes.
Every professional in the built environment, in the building industry, are there for one single reason. And that reason is construction. Why did I give you that background of there are different kinds of architects? There are some architects that 90% of their works are on paper.
Right.
They never get built. And even if they get built, sometimes they don't even know how those buildings got built.
True.
So, but yet they are architects. Because in our climb, there is no continuity between when you design and when the building gets done. A client will come to you, get a design from you, and walk away.
Right.
In fact, many clients are the ones that take our drawings to development control themselves. Even though they are not really compelled to make us do that, but it is only reasonable to expect that when you give a job to a professional and the professional is one that coordinated all the other professionals, the electrical, mechanical, structural, quantity surveyors and all that, and then when it comes to getting permits,
Yeah.
you pack everything away because you believe you have paid the man off. Because you don't want to continue paying for his services. And that is what fuels our climb. And we have to begin to change that narrative somehow. Many of our architectural designs, we find them on the street somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering, how did this happen? And then your client will take your design, go and build, get an approval, go and build. Perhaps he builds that in Lagos, and then he likes the building, he wants to build it in his village. He will take that design and go to his village.
Exactly.
Yeah, because there is no, enforcement of rules and regulations. By the time he gets to his village, he does what we do, and then he gets it built. I don't want to say what I shouldn't say. You know what I mean? He does what happens, and then he builds it. In this part of the world, a design can be replicated 4 or 5 times without the designer knowing about it.
Right.
Just as those days when they used to sell magazines of designs and people buy those magazines and pick up designs from those magazines, it's so preposterous to see that happening to us, to our intellectual property. And somebody allowed those magazines to be produced. I still have some of those magazines in my office. Full designs, and I know a few architects in this climb that used to copy from those kind of magazines anyway, back in the day. So one thing is where we're all going.
Yeah.
Whether you're an architect, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, surveyor, civil engineer, everything wraps around construction. If your design or your work or your finance, whatever, does not end up in construction, for me, the purpose has not been achieved. If my designs end up on paper, it's a sorry sight for me.
With or without your presence.
With or without my presence. It's sad that all that intellectual property, and we all have stories to tell about that. Somebody will come to you, tell you to do a design, you will spend days and nights, you get it done, they don't even come back. Some don't even come back.
Right.
The ones that come back will probably not pay you well. The ones that decide to pay you well will pay you half.
Exactly.
And walk away. Meanwhile, you have done the work. We have stories. So if it doesn't end up in construction, it is incomplete. So that's why early in life, because of my training is to be on the field all the time. For those first 15 years, always on the field.
Wow.
Always on the field. We had an office, but we rarely sat down in our office.
Then, but there were people who did the design.
Yeah.
Then,
there were people who did the design, architects like us, our colleagues, but we were made to be on the job sites. From the beginning to the end, we coordinate everything concerning the job, from site clearing to top out, and even maintenance, defects, liability period, every stage and part of construction, of design details and rework and all of that is what we were doing all those times. So, and that gave me joy and stood some of us out as architects who end up seeing the fruit of your labor. Because that's the fruit of your labor. Construction is fruit of your labor. And now, so when you want to construct, is one thing to construct, is another thing to construct well.
Right.
And is another thing to construct right. Construct well is different from construct right.
What's the difference?
All right, construct right is fit for purpose. Construct well is meet standard.
Okay.
All right. So if you are constructing and what you are constructing is not fit for purpose, you have not constructed right. Because there is a purpose to every design, every building, every construction. If that construction does not meet the purpose it is meant to serve, it is not rightly constructed. But if, even if that construction meets construction standards, all right? Because construction have standards. Okay, you have specifications and all that. No, you are trying to meet specifications, but the design was not fit for purpose. So you haven't constructed right, but you might have constructed well. And all of this is taken care of in construction project management. Right from the time where the brief is given, where a business case is analyzed, you determine whether that business case meets the purpose it is meant for. It is from the brief that you understand that what you are going to design and construct will meet the purpose it is meant for. And it takes a project manager to understand that. When I say a project manager, I mean a project manager. I'm not saying an architect or an engineer or a quantity surveyor. And a project manager can be any of these on a construction project. The one that understands all of these indices is the true project manager. So somebody can design a building, and at the end of the day, may not necessarily be the project manager, even though rightfully should be. All right? But sometimes when you look at what that kind of designer brings to the table, he may not be the project manager at the end of the day. I'll give you a very small example. A client gives an opportunity to a young architect to grow. Because we say, oh, you have to have experience. So somebody said, no, I've seen a lot of potential in this young professional. Let me give an opportunity to this young professional. All right, so and the young professional gets a brief and understands the brief. All right, but you see, design and construction goes beyond just understanding the brief. There is a lot of things that come with construction project management, stakeholder management, communication and risk analysis, a whole lot of things, scheduling, all sorts of things that come with construction project management. So, but you give an architectural design work to someone who is just young, like 5 years experience in the field. Not that he doesn't have experience at all, but 5 years thereabout experience in the field, and the person is doing well in the area of producing, design, and leading some team of other allied consultants to kind of like put all the other allied parts together and get some correlation done. But when you now if it's a project that requires proper management from the beginning to the end, and it is not the client that wants to do project management by himself. Because there are so many kinds of projects. Sometimes the client is the project manager.
Right.
let's face it. Let's be frank with ourselves. So we see that happening, but it shouldn't be. All right. So the client can decide, okay, I need a project manager to coordinate all these professionals, right? And you don't bring a project manager in the midway to a project.
Right.
If you really want to, get the best out of all these professionals, the project manager must be in right from the beginning, from the conceptual stage to close out, lessons learned, and so on and so forth. All right. So project manager can coordinate what an architect is doing, what other engineers will do, and put all of this together, understand the schedules and what have you, procurement and all of that. Perhaps a relatively young professional may not be able to do all of that.
Right.
Right? I'm not precluding that they will not be. I just said perhaps. So you now need someone with a lot of vast experience in managing construction projects, because there are a lot of vagaries. Managing projects in construction is different from managing projects in healthcare
Right.
or in IT. They are all project management, but they are distinctly different. And it's because of that difference that PMI saw a great need to fill that gap and brought up that certification called Project Management Construction Professional, which I am privileged to be the business development lead for Sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you so much, sir. You've touched on a lot of things. But then, when you were speaking, something came to my mind. At what point, when you said the project manager is either an architect, an engineer, and all of those, but then from school, we didn't get to learn about the project manager's role in the profession. Just when we came into the field that we got to know. So, at what point do you think that this project manager is it something we should start learning from school, or is it something that, okay, we are good the way it is right now?
You just speak those words out of my mouth. We need to revive or reform our curriculum. We need to reform our curriculum. There's so many things, not just only project management. At some point in my career, I discovered that sustainability, which I never heard when I was in school, and it was not that I never heard, it was not trending when we were in school. There's nothing like that. There was nothing like that. Sustainability started coming up 20 years ago or thereabout, 20, 25 years ago. But 30, 40 years ago, who really was talking about sustainability? Who was talking about climate change 40 years ago? Because what brought sustainability into the conversation is the issues of climate change, global warming, and all of that, depletion of the ozone layer. And then we're thinking, oh, we need to do something to stop all those, greenhouse gas emissions, to be able to have an environment that can sustain our lives for longer than we expect. So we have to look at the things that are happening to us, changing our landscape, that we must infuse into our curriculum. One of your sessions that you had talked about accessibility.
Yes.
And how many of us as architects can say that we knew what we ought to know, even as students, about accessibility? Very few, apart from putting a ramp, and then making the toilets user-friendly and all of that. Is that all there is about accessibility?
No.
Definitely not. All right, so there's a lot we should learn, and you don't have to be. That's one of the things I find strange. In the Western world, they're saying accessibility expert.
Yeah.
For God's sake, you're an architect. You don't have to be an accessibility expert for as long as you're an architect. You ought to know everything in that direction as an architect. Ought to know. You don't, not like you cannot go learn more, but for you to expect that a normal architect He's not going to be able to handle matters that have to do with accessibility in an institutional building or something until you go and bring an accessibility expert. Is he electricity? You understand? I mean, it's design. An architect should know. He doesn't have to be an expert before he knows. And why does he not know? Because our curriculum. So it comes down to the same thing. Our curriculum on accessibility, our curriculum on sustainability, our curriculum on project management, our curriculum on business of architecture. It was a free elective I had on business development and the last year of my schooling. Just the last year, one free elective. I'm sure they remember that, let's take one elective from business department. So they just brought, and then they told us a few things about business, and then we passed or failed. And then we moved on. It was a free elective. Even professional administration that we probably know, they only bring it to you in your final year. Well, I don't know if the thing has changed.
We didn't do that for us.
You understand? I mean, us, they brought we used to call it prof admin, professional administration. It was a course. But it's only in your final year that you will do professional administration because they think they are now preparing you towards graduating and working as a professional out there. All right. But
probably the name
our curriculum need to change. I lead the UIA work program in Africa as the regional director for Architecture for All work program of the UIA. And I have in my team, this is a work program that is all over the world under UIA. And the one in Africa has members from many countries who chose to volunteer to be part of that. And we talk on a monthly basis and discuss so many issues. And one of the major issues that we discussed recently, where we even sent a survey to all African countries, is about accessibility standards in our country and how much of accessibility standards are inside our building codes, if we have building codes at all. So we sent out the survey to ask professionals, to ask architects if they know there is a code in their country, if they know that the code contains accessibility standards, if they know that those standards, those ISO standards, are also replicated in their own standards, and how much those standards are being, adhered to in their buildings, in their designs. We're talking about design for people living with disability and all that. It's all entrenched in that accessibility, those accessibility standards. The results was alarming from different parts of Africa. Many do not even know that those standards do exist in their countries. And because standards are created and watched over by regulatory authorities like Standards Organization of Nigeria, an example, and other parts, all similar in different countries. So we need to. So what we decided in UIA that we're going to do is that we have to work with the Education Commission of UIA to see how we can infuse accessibility standards into the curriculum that UIA, into the curriculum of institutions that UIA uses for validation. So if they give you, requirements for what your schools, your institutions should have as curriculum, and then if you are part of UIA, if your country is part of UIA, then you must follow all those standards and infuse those kind of things into your curriculum. So I've spoken about those kind of standards that must be infused into our curriculum from school. So the answer to your question is very straightforward. We cannot wait until we come out there before we begin to learn these things. Accessibility, construction project management, very, very important because that covers everything. And the other parts that I talked about, sustainability, very important. Now we're coming out to learn about sustainability and see how we can stop using glazing, or the kind of glazing we can use, the kind of walls we should use. We're going back to earth construction that we left. Why did we leave it at some point? We don't even know. And now we want to go back to it. Sustainability, resilience. Yeah. So these things should go back to school. Back to school.
Thank you so much, sir, for that feedback. Now, let's talk about your business development lead. You said, as a business development lead for PMI-CP certification in Sub-Saharan Africa, what skills and resources will tomorrow's project managers need that today's professionals often lack?
Thank you very, very much. It's a very fantastic question, and I might shock you when I give you my answer.
Okay.
Every professional, either young or old, in our industry that wants to be a construction project manager must learn how to use generative AI.
Okay.
Generative AI. If you don't learn it, you will be left behind. If you don't learn it, you will become a behemoth. You become a cake, no matter how young you are. I didn't say how old. I said no matter how young you are, you will become a cake. If you don't learn to infuse generative AI into what you are doing right now and how you are doing them. As a construction project manager, generative AI takes your life to the next level, takes your career to the next level, takes your work to the next level. What you used to do in perhaps a week, you do it in an hour. What you do in a day, you do it in seconds or minutes. What you spend a whole day to do, you will get it done in minutes, very few minutes, single-digit minutes with generative AI. And generative AI is different from ChatGPT. All right? Generative AI takes a whole lot of data, just like we all understand that, what AI does. Takes a whole lot of data from different sources and creates with it. And that's the difference between generative AI and AI. So we've been talking about AI, right? I go to seminars and they say AI is coming to take over. Lie. That's a big lie. AI is not taking over nothing. Neither is generative AI taking over either. So don't go thinking I'm saying generative AI is going to take over. No.
Why do you say so?
Because it cannot. Doesn't have the ability to. Take over from who? From me or from you? You are still the decider of what you turn out at the end of the day. So generative AI will give you options, will give you productions and all that. Who decides what you give out? What you take out is still you. You still make decisions. You still check out emotions of people. The emotional intelligence is still yours. Generative AI doesn't have emotional intelligence. AI doesn't have emotional intelligence.
Right.
And you need emotional intelligence to deliver in this life anything you are doing. So what generative AI does for us is to make our work a lot easier. I saw one of your questions and I don't want to answer it before I get there because I want you to get there. All right. So let me just leave it that way. before I say
Okay.
too much now. That is one thing I think we all need to imbibe. We all need to do that we're not doing enough or we're not doing right
Yeah,
now.
now.
We must move on to understand generative AI and begin to apply it to what we do. That will make our world explode.
Thank you, sir, for that feedback. And you've managed huge projects, like you mentioned, the Sun City Estate to US Embassy. What's the hardest project you've ever worked on? Can you tell us about a crisis moment you'll never forget and how you turned it around?
The last part is a bit difficult, but the first part is not so difficult. Hardest project I worked on, sincerely, it's the US Embassy project. Why was it hard for me? Hard in the sense that it was a definitely different learning curve for me. Here was I, an architect, well seasoned, well grounded as an architect and project manager, coming to a terrain where I had to learn all construction and architecture almost from the beginning. And you know why?
Why?
Because all my architecture before that time was within Nigeria.
Okay.
My training was in Nigeria and my architecture was in Nigeria. All right. So I got on that project because the project is situated in Nigeria. All right. And very rarely they don't engage foreign nationals at that level. But mine was my kind of like an exception. So, and when I got there, the challenges were how they do things, how things should be done, and how they build. Let me shock you in this interview. I keep bringing too many shocks, right?
Exactly.
Let me shock you in this interview. When I got to that embassy project, I discovered that everything I knew about how we do things in construction in Nigeria is wrong. Totally
Wrong
wrong.
or different? Which one?
Wrong. Wrong. Read my lips. Wrong. Why did I say wrong?
Yeah.
And I stand to be challenged by, I'm not afraid to be challenged by anybody. We'll discuss the challenge. When you are in school, and I know everybody can relate with me, that they tell you, oh, don't worry, when you get to the field, you do it differently.
Yes.
Have you heard that before?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not hard. Don't worry, when you get to the field, you know how to do it. Nope. On the US Embassy project, everything we did on that project is by the books. Everything. In fact, when I'm working in the day and I'm reading at night, because I started as quality control manager
Okay. Okay, see.
before I became the project manager. So as a QC manager, then, so QC means QC.
Control.
You understand? Quality assurance and quality control. Because from the contractor side, you do quality assurance.
Yes.
Then from the client side, supervision, you do quality control. And I was almost like doing both. From the contractor side,
And from the client.
from the client side, because clients expect you to make sure everything is done properly. And it is according to the books. I had to get, and that's one of my greatest assets in life anyway, books. I have more books than I have clothes. And I read them, not just for shelf materials. So I had to get back to the books and discover how to make form work. As an architect, we're not trained to make form work. We're just shown that this is form work, but they don't tell us how they are made. I don't know whether they told you in your own school how form work is made.
No.
We're not expected to know them, right? All right, so when you now want to get into project management and you don't know how formwork is made, tell me how you're going to manage the people doing the formwork. I didn't make the formwork myself, but I needed to know how it is made so that when they are making mistakes, I can say, no, this is not the way to go. I'm just using formwork as an example, all right? And we're talking about engineered forms, not carpentered forms. Engineered, everything is engineered. Where you put your props in your building is engineered. It's part of the engineering. They will tell you the distance from one prop to the other.
Yeah.
But do we do that in our client? Let's be frank with ourselves.
No, we don't.
So this was a serious learning curve for me, and I enjoyed it. At the end of the day, it was tedious, not difficult, but it was really tedious. So that moment you're talking about, for me, it was more tedious and eye-opening, but it was quite enjoyable. Now, the last part of that question is
The crisis moment.
the crisis moment. Yeah. That crisis moment, part of my assignment was to follow our mixed concrete to site because we didn't have a batching plant at the time we were building in that site. So we had to go to Julius Berger. It was the only one approved for us to get our concrete from back. That was how many years ago now? About 20 years or 15? I did that project, 2007.
It's over 20 years.
Yeah,
It's 25.
2007, 2008. All right?
18 years.
Yes.
18.
So that time, there were no other, in fact, any serious concrete batching company in Abuja other than Julius Berger. So we'll go to their yard with our trucks. We had our concrete trucks. We go to their yard, give them the specification of concrete we needed for that time, and that truck must return to our to our job site within a space of time while that concrete is inside the truck. And guess what? I, as QC manager, must drive behind that truck every time it goes out and comes back. And one of these days, the truck broke down.
With the concrete
With the
inside.
concrete inside. It broke down with the concrete. It had, well, not really totally broke down, but it had hiccups on the way. And the journey wasn't short. I mean, we're talking at that time from, I don't want to mention the names of the areas, but not less than perhaps 10, 15 kilometers drive from the batching plant yard to our job site. It wasn't less than 10, 15 kilometers. And it had hiccups along the way. We had to quickly call for an engineer to come fix that truck. Otherwise, we will lose the entire concrete. Because even if the concrete is still workable, there is a particular slum it must be before we can pour. All right? We use it for that particular purpose. It was going to go, and that's a lot of money that was going to go down the drain. You know, so thank God we had our engineers on ground. Resources, human resources is very important. And if I didn't follow that truck, now here's the thing: if I did not go with that truck in my own car, that truck would have been broken down. The driver may not know what to do, and that is where a project manager comes in, or a management level person comes in. Perhaps that's why they said you must follow the truck. And although for security reasons, that was why I was following the truck. Not for that reason, but it was for security reasons, because that project was it was an institutional project, and it had security, high security components in it, and so they don't want any hanky-panky, and that was it. I think that speaks a lot.
So, sir, let's go into the money aspect of this discussion. Most architects shy away from the money side of projects. Why do you think that is? And what's the biggest misconception about funding architectural projects that we have?
Shying away
Yeah.
and biggest misconception. Most architects shy away from money because of ignorance. We have wallowed in ignorance for a very long time. First of all, the public, they think that the architect's job is to design buildings. And that is just 10% of
What?
the responsibilities of an architect. And I'm not speaking hypothetically. It's exactly 10%, if not less, of what an architect is required to be and to do. An architect does quite a whole lot of things in the building industry. Project management is one of them. But designing of buildings is just 10% of the requirement of what an architect should be. Okay, now, so 10%. You and I went to school. We spent not less than 75% of our time designing. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Thereabout. And yet, that design that you and I went to school to do, some AI bot is doing it right now for us. With generative AI, all you need to do is speak and give prompt to the artificial intelligence, and he will come with so many options for you for design that sometimes you may not even find anything to correct. It depends on how well you gave the prompt. And how well you gave the prompt is determined by how well you understood the brief. So if you understand the brief very well and you understand specification writing, you give a proper prompt to AI and it will give you a design without you raising a finger. Now, but that doesn't mean that that is a design. You will still need to go through, you will still need to put the human element into it before you come up with final decision. But it will give you those options, which back in the day you have no privilege of having that. If I get a design back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago, thereabout, or let's say 35 years ago, I will spend the night sketching and throwing away the sketch and starting all over again, thinking. I have to be in a place where it is very quiet. For you to put on your thinking cap. And when I'm talking about thinking, I'm not talking about thinking of the next line to draw. I'm talking about thinking of how that design will play out. All right, from all the indices you're looking at, site indices, environmental indices, and all of that come to your thinking pot. And you are now, that's determining, okay, how you're putting, how the matrix, you're working out the matrix of your design.
Sure.
So we were not taught how to build a career in architecture. We're taught how to be architects in some way, but not how to build a career in architecture. And that's the missing link. That's the missing link. When we were growing up too, I keep saying we were growing up, that's the experience I have. All right. So when we're growing up, they tell us, oh, when you graduate, just look for a very good architecture firm to work with. That's not how to build a career in architecture. That's just one aspect of it. Yes, you can find a good architecture firm who has track record. You can learn a thing or two from. Yes, but that is not the building of the career. The career is the business of architecture. For example, you must learn how to do the other 90% of the responsibilities of an architect. And while you are doing it, you are making enough resources to take you to the next level in life. That must be part of the narrative, part of the equation. But no, it wasn't our equation then. In fact, if you have that kind of equation, they say you're overambitious. So you get a good architectural firm, and the next thing is this: they're paying you pittance. They are paying you pittance, even as a good architectural firm. And somebody says you have to be patient, you want to earn everything in one day. No, you're not. But you're trying to say you want to earn your rightful pay. In the UK, no one is allowed to take on an intern without paying the intern. It's against the law. RIBA is making sure that they set up, when you, like what we call SciWest here, when you have SciWest students coming here, even the lecturers, the school will be telling you are not expected to pay them in the SciWest book. You know what I mean? They will tell you, but it's wrong. If you don't pay someone, there's no value. Because the person wants to come and learn doesn't mean that there's no value. And do you know where that comes from? The apprenticeship system that we grew up with. The Alaba apprenticeship system, where they bring somebody, a young boy from the village, to come and learn trade, to come and learn this while he's learning, he's not being paid.
Although sometimes they are settled at the end of the day.
Please. Who determines the settlement? What determines the settlement? You understand? Yes. Most times they are expected to be settled. That's a system. It's a system. But I'm saying at the time the person is working, how do you rate what the person deserves while he's doing the job? Okay, he works for you for 10 years, and you say you settle him with a shop. All right, and equip the shop somewhat, and expect him to build up from there. It's not bad, all right, but it is not right. Pay him while he's working, and then give him his gratuity when he's leaving. Settling him is like giving him gratuity, like somebody worked in civil service for 35 years, and then you give him gratuity. That's settlement now, so that he has something to go home with. But while he was doing for 35 years, was he free? You have to pay him salary. So why should we have interns and we're not paying them anything? Or we're not expected to pay interns? We're not teaching ourselves the business of how to be self-sufficient to a very large extent. Even in our homes. If our children did chores for us, pay them. Pay them somehow and teach them how to keep money. Teach them how to be responsible. You're not paying them because you owe them. You are paying them because you are trying to train them how to understand that you work for a compensation, and if you want more compensation, you have to work for it. Not like, because I'm your father, then you must use one of my cars. Because I'm your father. I mean, it's my father's car now. Why don't we think, okay, you must work for the car, for the use of the car? Do you deserve, because it's your father's car, doesn't mean that you deserve to use it. I'm not saying you cannot use it, but let it be that we teach ourselves that system of entrepreneurship. So that's what we miss. That's why architects don't come to that level where they understand finance, where they understand that they must work, and work must bring the pay. I told you something during the break, that and how we just want to survive. This survival instinct is enough, so you just want to get and grab to do anything just because you want to survive. All right, but that's the system we find ourselves. And I'll give the example of a place that I also know too, in the West. as many as they are as architects in the US, you can hardly find an architect who does not have a job. Please quote me. I know this very well. You can hardly find an architect who doesn't have a job. Either he's working for himself, or he's working for someone else, or he's working for government. Every architect who deserves to be called an architect has a job. Even the ones that don't even deserve to be called an architect, who are training, maybe the associate level, they all have jobs. Can we say that about our client? In our client, it is a Pareto principle that operates. 80% of the jobs are done by 20% of the professionals. The remaining 20% of the jobs is left to the 80% of the professionals to struggle to try and grab. But in other climes, you find that there is always a provision where, high-level architects do high-level jobs, mid-level architects do mid-level jobs, lower-level architects do lower-level jobs. Everything is scaled. They have systems where they have, different levels of business enterprises. All right, they have the majority, the minority, the average business enterprise, and all of that. So if you fall in one category, you know that there is always something that you can have a grab on. Why do they do that? Because they expect you to pay taxes. So if you are not going to pay taxes, they must know why you're not paying taxes. So they ensure that you are getting jobs to be able to pay your taxes. But here, we're expected to pay our taxes whether we get the job or not. Government or our professional associations don't care where we get the jobs or how we get the jobs. We're expected to pay our dues, pay subscriptions, pay our taxes. But there is no system that tells us this is how, if you graduate, when you graduate, so and so, you know that there is a guarantee that you will find a job where you are living or where you are working. So finances is a very intricate thing for us because we're not trained to do it. We don't know how to navigate it. What was the second part of that question?
The misconception about funding architecture projects.
Yeah, misconception. We're also told that you get your jobs through referrals.
Yeah.
You don't advertise. Archaic ideas that have gone with the times. All right? And you wait for somebody to recommend you. And then when somebody recommends you, you become subservient to that system. Oh, you respect that system because they recommended you. You don't want to offend them. You should get jobs based on your abilities, integrity, capacities, not necessarily recommendations. But here, we know everything here is man, no man. You need to have that network. Network is good, but it's not necessarily because because the moment you get the network, you're already subservient to that network. Somebody makes you a minister. You can't be free to do what you know how to do. Somebody gives you a job. You can't be free to even ask for the kind of things you ask for what you really deserve. And what builds a firm is planning, structure. That's one of the things we don't have. Structure. You must have a structure for your firm. Have a plan. All right? Have a structural plan and have 5-year plan, 10-year plan. In the next 5 years, this is what we want to do. And then you begin to strategize on how to get there in the next 5 years. All right? And I think I'm answering that question clearly now. You must have structural plans, development plans. I can tell you many architectural firms in Nigeria don't have structure. They just surviving, they're just doing well. Some of them are even doing well, but still no structure. But a few of them too are beginning to grow to that level where they understand that structure is very important, because it is structure that outlives you. It's structure that builds you, that scales you. As an architect, if you run your firm or you are working in a firm, everybody must be paid, including the owner, the so-called owner must be paid. That's part of the structure and strategy. The owner of the firm, when money comes, it goes to the firm's account, and the firm determines what everybody gets paid. Even if you're sharing profit, at the end of the day, if the person is, let's assume you're sharing profit, all right, you first of all get paid, and then the accountant will work out what is left, what profit is made, what percentage of profit goes to so and so person, and that profit is going to be X all the salaries that has been paid.
Okay.
So if you say you're sharing profit, okay, so the money has come, 10 million. We're sharing profit now. My own is 50%. Give me my 5 million. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You share profit. You see companies, they only share profit at the end of the year when they're doing their AGM. You don't share profit when you get money from the job.
Yeah.
Because you have to run the office. You have to run the firm. So when the money comes, you're paying everybody their, earlier on decided salaries, emoluments, and allowances that needs to get everybody going, including the cleaner and everybody. That's part of the overhead. Even you as the owner, you are part of the overhead. Profit now comes at the end of the year when you now analyze, this is how much revenue we made, this is how much we spent to get to where we are, this is how much taxes we paid, this is how much interest we paid on whatever funding we got. If we got funding to run the office or something like that, you pay interest, you pay taxes, you pay overheads, all right? This is how much we decide to invest. If the company decide to invest a part of the money, and now this is now the net profit. The net profit is what you now talk about, we are going to share according to the sharing formula. Not the gross money that you got and you now think, okay, you have to run an organization, you have to structure everything.
Thank you so much, sir, for that feedback. I think so. The next question is, especially this is for a young architect. If a young architect came to you with vision but no money, what would you tell them is the very first step in securing funding?
Articulation. You have a vision, but how well have you articulated it? Part of what we're taught also, architecture is a very ubiquitous profession. You know a bit of everything as an architect. Even though that might sound a little arrogant, but definitely is not. I can assure you it's not. For you to be a well-rounded architect, you must have that knowledge of everything, a part of everything. You come with a vision. I'm going to ask you, how well did you articulate your vision? There's something we call feasibility and viability. Did you do a feasibility analysis? Did you do a viability analysis of your vision? What are the parameters you gave to your vision? Are the parameters real? Did you apply the SMART approach? Is your vision specific? Is your vision measurable? Is your vision achievable? Is your vision realistic? Is your vision time bound? That's a SMART approach. You must apply the SMART approach to your vision. And that tells me that's the first thing I will ask you to do. If you do this, finding money for that vision will not be too much of an uphill task. For as long as you can scale the vision too. All right? If it is such a huge vision, did you put it in phases? Let's achieve this phase first before we go to the next level. All right? But before you talk about achieving a phase, you must show that your vision is smart. You must have done a feasibility analysis, a viability analysis. From the start, you know whether it is a failure or not, or it will be a failure or not. So the person doesn't have money. I'm going to tell you, where is your feasibility and viability analysis? And where is your concept note that tells me, because it is in your concept note, I will see all the smart analysis you have done. Do you have a specific vision? Is it clear? All right. Do you have a measurable vision? What are the parameters you put to measure what that vision is going to achieve? And so on and so forth. Can that measure of vision be achieved? And is it realistic or is it a phantom? And what is the timeline you are giving to yourself to achieve that vision? If it is not bound by time, don't call me there. Time doesn't mean it must be in 6 months. It can be in 10 years. That's still time. That's time. So if anyone comes with a vision, a young person doesn't know how to do these things or educate him or herself. And you get all these things done with construction project management. When you learn the methodologies of construction project management and doing these kind of things will be piece of cake. Quite easy for you as a young professional coming up.
So it's been educative so far. But then the next question is, you've worked across contexts where access to capital is scarce. What's the most creative and unexpected way you've seen a project funded?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because it brings me some nostalgic, memories. That's a very tough one. Creativity in funding projects it's a tall order, especially in this climate, where funding, even the government finds funding very difficult. Government at the macro level, right? And so at our level as individuals or private entities, because of the high level of corruption in our society, funding is something that people don't really want to talk about. Because many people approach funding from so many different angles, all right? And these days you will see that EFCC has beamed their searchlight on the real estate market. Why? Because they discovered that a lot of funding that are prevalent in the real estate market come from illicit finances. Illicit finances through what they call money laundering and all of that. So many people don't want to talk about funding projects. Okay, so there was a particular project that I had. I'm not going to mention the exact project that I was doing project management, and we were going to move from one phase of the project to another. And then I approached the client in order to draw up my plan as a project management consultant for that next phase. And I approached the client that, look, I need to know your budget for this next phase, all right, and how you intend to execute and achieve the budget lines and all of that. I wrote a letter. In those days, it was letters you have to write, not even email. Right, I wrote to the client and wanted to have a conversation over that. And then the next thing I got when I was discussing with the client told me, you know, God is my source. God is my source. Because I was asking, he couldn't give me the budget. Say God is his source, that he's just going to work according to how the money comes. I knew I was in for big trouble on that project. So there are no two ways about it. You need to just do things right. When it comes to funding quagmires, I've had other different kinds of funding, issues for projects, proposals, and even some projects that we've even signed MOUs with owners and all of that. And then somewhere along the line, and the people that my partners told me we shouldn't worry about funding. That's why I am very hard on any architect who wants to go into project right now. If you do not know where the money is coming from, right, property managers, you will just be working for someone else. I'm not saying you can't get a project done if you don't know where the money is coming from, but you will be working for someone and you will be at the whims and caprice of whoever you're working for. Whoever is bringing the money, actually. So even if it's your younger brother that is bringing that money, he's your boss. And he dictates the tune of that project anyhow he wants or she wants. If it's an organization, if it's a bank, which is worse anyway. If you're a client, banks, and I don't blame them. They want to break even as well. All right, so that's why they put the hammer on anyone who wants to do any real estate development project, and you want their money in projects like that, in any kind of real estate. So you must be able to control where the fund comes from. If you cannot have that some level of control on how the fund comes in and where it comes from, you just find yourself at the mercy of whoever is funding the project or where the fund is coming from. So you must have some level of control on where and how. Where are we getting the funds from? How are we getting the funds? So if a client comes to you and said, I have a project, our jobs, we're just so vulnerable as architects. Every architect client wants to call you now. In fact, you don't even have a right to ask the client where is he getting the money from. Seems like that, right?
Yeah.
But guess what? You have your right. The reason why you have a right to do that is because you are supposed, as an architect, to be involved with the funding model of every project, even if it's a private project. If a friend of mine that I've known, a professional from another profession, came to me, I want to build this, I want to build that, and then one of the questions I asked, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. I said, do you have the money on ground? He said, no. I said, how do you expect to get the money? Because I'm not going to put my machinery into motion to go and be looking for properties. He wanted to buy huge property. And he wants me to go and look for the property. I said, no, I'm not going to look for the property if I, first of all, don't know, one, how you're going to get the money to pay for the property. Two, are you willing to pay for my services to look for the property, not whether you buy property. Real estate managers say, okay, you go to them, they say they will they will take a percentage of what?
Agent fee.
Do you know the reason they take that much percentage? It's because of the work they have to do before they even get you to buy. It's not necessarily because of the cost of the building that you're buying, of the property you're buying. It's more of, do you know how many properties they have shown this same client that you didn't buy?
Exactly.
So who pays for all that work? Am I making sense to you?
Right.
So it is more of who pays for all of that work, and there is no way they can tell you that, look, everyone that I check, you give me 1 million. If they told you that you will pay 1 million for everyone that you check, whether you buy it or not, for the checking, you will sit up and decide whether you want them to check
Exactly.
or not. But we just take things for granted. Clients just call you. They even think they're doing you a favor by calling you. Otherwise, they could have called another real estate agent. All right. So they call you to say, look for this house for me. And then I don't like that one. It's too expensive. It's blah, blah, blah. And then you go and look for another one. All that work you did is not work.
It is.
All that work you did is gone down the drain. So when they now eventually get one, and you tell them you're collecting 10%, somebody will now be telling you, Haba.
Right.
Say, why? What did they do? I used to say that a lot as an architect. Oh, I loathed the real estate agents in this town. I'm sure some of them might hear me now. I loathed the fact that architects who design, who go through the construction, our 5% is spread throughout, beginning to the end. If you understand what I mean, if you're getting your fees for your services, your 5% is not for design, if you know. It's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, feasibility stage, conceptual stage, working drawing stage, construction stage. All of that is built into the 5% of the cost of the project that you're doing. So if I give you a design, and I've done the working drawings, I've only taken 75% of my 5%. Because the first stage is 25, second stage is 50. So I've taken 75% of the 5%. The remaining 25%, I cannot earn it until that building is built. And I have put in my supervision into the building. That's part of my fee as an architect. The only other thing I get is reimbursable for traveling to your site during the construction and residency, and those are not inside my fee, but those are extras, right? But my fee, 25% of my fee is during construction stage, and I only earn it on interim basis. As I'm releasing valuation for contractor, I'm releasing also a percentage of my 25% as my design, as my architectural services fee. It's called architectural services. So that's why I say architectural service is not just about design. When I do feasibility and viability, it's part of my architectural services. When I analyze tenders and all of that, if I correlate drawings, it's part of my architectural service. I'm not designing. I'm already doing so many other parts of architectural service. So design is just one part of architectural service.
Thank you, sir. Again, with your background in real estate, we already started talking about real estate. Do you believe architects should increasingly think like developers? If so, what business or financial skills must they urgently acquire?
That's a leading question because I don't know how developers think. I don't know how they think. So you ask me if architects should think like them.
Yeah.
Except you explain to me how they think. Then I'll know how to answer that question. I don't know how they think because I am not a developer.
I think this is especially with funding or finding funding for the projects.
Okay, especially with finding funding for the project. I have given you a few examples of my encounter with some developers and how they tell me, oh, I just want to break even. I just want to get out of the place so they can cut corners. They can do almost anything and everything just to get to the end of the project and be able to get the television to celebrate them, and they have done this, they've done that, they've built this estate, they've built that estate. That's why somebody will just acquire land, fence it, and paint the gatehouse and put it on a picture that the estate is alive, when it's just a gatehouse that has been built and painted very nicely. All right? So that's marketing strategy. Okay? If that gets them what they want, good luck to them. Now, but architects are professionals. They are professionals, first of all, professionals. And then, of course, they're businessmen. Is that business part of architecture that we have been talking about all this while, that look, we need to really bring up with the professional part? We think of the professional part. In fact, the licensing and everything is all about the professional part. But the business part is played down. And that's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you and I afloat as architects. So architects must first of all be professionals and at the same time be businessmen. So for me, architects should have a part and a bit of what developers do to break even and mix it with their professionalism to get the best out of the two sides of the world. So that's my thinking. That's what I believe.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your feedback so far. And now let's go into the global picture. Since from the global bodies often favor foreign consultants over local firms. As someone active in the AIA, UIA, and AUA, how can African architects win trust and funding in global systems tilted against them?
Very good question, especially with the inferences you made, AIA and AUA. Everything rises and falls on our level of professionalism and exposure. Why some clients or many clients prefer international professionals to do their job for them is because of the level of exposure that those international organizations have displayed, that level of exposure. And if we keep closing our doors in Africa against ourselves, as we speak right now, we have not even begun to enjoy the benefits of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that Africa has, put together. Some countries have not even ratified it. Free trade agreement is not just about goods; it's about goods and services. Right now, how many countries in Africa can we crisscross even our services? There's a lot to do to get to that point where you can crisscross, because, as professionals, our jobs are to protect lives. If I don't understand the terrain where I'm going to design, how am I going to protect the lives of the people there? So, but our training must be able to allow us to be able to open our doors to one another. We have not opened our doors to our fellow Africans. And now I want to suggest that we should open our doors to non-Africans and all that. I would really love a situation whereby we can practice as much as possible wherever we find ourselves, with a bit of little training here and there, but let it be that our licenses, our professional qualifications give us some level of leverage wherever we find ourselves. That is what is important. If our professional qualifications cannot even give us any leverage when we go outside of our jurisdiction, then we haven't started. So we have closed our doors, and we have also locked up the doors from foreign, incursions. For example, in Nigeria, so much by virtue of my knowledge of how the regulatory bodies of architecture operate and the association, a foreign architect cannot come into Nigeria without collaborating adequately with a local professional. That is what is supposed to be. But there is a lot of impunity in law breaking. People break law however they feel it, and they get away with breaking laws. So that's why you will see that happening a lot. Somebody's building some beautiful, huge building in Lagos or Port Harcourt or Abuja, and then you go do your investigation, you find out that the architect is a foreign architect, which is not so much of a bad thing. However, what percentage of that design has local content in it? Local professional content. I'm not talking about local materials, I'm talking about local professional content in it. Because if I, as an architect in Nigeria, want to go out there to the other countries, I cannot do it alone. I must have, if I'm invited, if ever I get invited, I must have the foreign content. Now it's going to be foreign content or the local content in that place I'm going to, in what I'm going to do. So really, what African architects need to do is to open their doors more, not shut their doors, but set the standards and maintain the standards. When they see us doing that, South Africa does that. When they see us doing that, they will respect us more. Those are the kind of advocacy that our professional organizations should keep working on until we get to a point where we earn the respect that we deserve. Otherwise, that foreign incursion will continue to happen and there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay. Thank you again. So can we talk about your legacy? When you look back at your career so far, what moments make you most proud? Not just because of the money or recognition, but because it mattered deeply to you.
When I look back,
Yeah.
what makes me proud is the people that I have affected their careers one way or the other. Those who have passed through me, all right, those who have had one interaction or the other with me. I remember many years ago, we used to even allow secondary school students to come to my firm for internship. Especially when my kids were in secondary school. So I get that invitation from their school authorities that, oh, they know that your father is an architect, and we have some students who want to do they call it long vacation. They want to just go to some architecture firm to understudy. And we used to allow them, and guess what? I used to pay them.
Wow.
Yeah, I pay them. I don't allow them to come to my firm and they don't get paid, even secondary school students. So these are the little things that for me, money can't buy. And they were shocked. Their parents were also shocked that their sons and daughters got paid at that level, secondary school, not even college. I paid them.
Wow.
I decided, look, you can't go without collecting. They spend maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maximum a month, those secondary school students. And when they're about to go, put something in an envelope and tell them this is for you for being in our firm. So that for me, is more than anything, more than any building we have built or designed or managed. It's the lives we have affected. That's what it gives me joy, makes me proud.
Okay. So before we wrap up, I would love to ask you, what is the most important thing about construction project management and funding that we haven't discussed but should have? And if anyone in the built environment could ask one burning question, wishing that I had asked you, but I didn't, what question do you think it would be?
Question will be, how do I become a certified construction professional?
Exactly.
And the answer is very simple. Go to pmi.org and you will see all the answers to your questions there. PMI is a global organization, and it has found it in their wisdom to create this construction professional certification. It is more than a certification, even though the ultimate of being part of it is to have a certification. Everybody knows PMP, everybody knows CAPM. These are products from the same organization. And but in a few years back, PMI decided that it is necessary to separate certification for project managers in the construction industry from every other certification that they give, And so the PMICP is a certification that has come to answer so many questions in the construction industry, and it's for everybody in the construction industry. You don't have to be an architect, you don't have to be an engineer, you don't have to be a surveyor, even if you're a plumber. And you lead projects and you can read and write. At least you must be able to read and write.
Yes.
You can read and write, and you have spent a minimum of 3 years in the building industry. You are eligible to take the models, the learning part, and then which leads you to become eligible to write the exam, and then you become a globally recognized construction professional. For me, that will be the ultimate. That, okay, we haven't really talked so well about and all that, but I want to see a situation whereby every professional in the industry, all right, become construction professionals, especially in the area of construction project management. PMI is not going to train you on how to be an architect or give you a certification on how to be an engineer. It's going to train you and give you a certification on how to be a construction project manager, a construction project leader in your sphere, wherever you find yourself. Project leader doesn't mean that you are the owner of the project. I'm sure you know. You are leading other professionals, you're leading other team members in delivering a project result. For as long as you're delivering a project result and you're the one being part of it, being a leader in it, or you're not the one leading it right now, but you want to become a leader tomorrow, it is also for you.
And right now, we have a fireside chat kind of question for you.
I thought I've been on fire since.
Then our fireside question is, it's more like taking you back to memory lane, especially when you were a student. What was your best course in school?
History of architecture.
Why history?
Comes fast. I can't think twice about that.
Well, and what was the most exciting experience as an architecture student for you?
As an architecture student, the most exciting experience is after I submitted my project and I have to go and shave. Oh man, that's exciting. Because I can't shave before submitting my project.
And I was going to say, what was your studio life like a week before final jury in school?
Don't ask me. That's a question you don't want to have an answer to. Are you sure you won't have an answer to?
Obviously.
Have you seen an architecture student carrying his drawing board and T-square going to where the rich man on the street has lights when It has generator.
Yes.
So, and it has some street light. So you have to carry your drawing board to in front of his gate, of his fence, so that you can have light to draw.
Wow. Wow.
I'm telling you, I did it. Before eventually I bought a gas lamp. Gas lamp that looks like a lantern, but it has a gas canister underneath it. I don't know if you've seen it before. You know, it's a gas lamp. It looks like normal lantern. You know how lantern is, that shape, that kind of thing. But underneath, it has a gas canister. It was small canister, not bigger than this. You can just put it in and then screw it in. The moment you screw it in, then the wick enters into it and you can light it up. Because when I went to school, there was no electricity. There's electricity, but there's nothing, light doesn't come in the bulb. Light doesn't come in the bulb. Even my son, who graduated from Footmina, graduated last year, he has finished his youth service, who graduated from Footmina here, gave me woes of electricity problems that they had in their hostel.
Wow.
So how do you expect an architecture student who will be in class during the day? See where we come special? During the day we're in class, and at night is when we're supposed to draw. And there's no light. And you have a deadline.
Are you dare not miss?
I said we carry drawing board, A1 drawing board. Went to the front of someone's fence because the man had light. He had generator and sat down there at least for 2-3 hours to draw, to catch up. This is not story. I'm telling you live experience that I went through. I don't know whether you went through it.
No. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food?
Yes.
They used to change now. They were changing. At the time, it was beans and plantain, but that one has changed. I don't eat beans like that anymore. I still do, but not like the way I used to like it. But now, just give me amala and gbegiri. You know what that is?
I've not eaten it before. I think
But you've heard of it before?
Yes, when we were coming, he said he wanted to taste amala.
Give me amala, correct amala and gbegiri and ewedu with goat meat. I'm good to go. I don't eat beef stroganoff, all those kind of things. What they call?
That one.
Give me amala, gbegiri, ewedu, and goat meat. Abi, you get them? All right, we done?
Yes, we're done. Then, sir, I think we wanted to add this to our conversation, that more like a recommendation for the next architect from our present interview. Who would you recommend we bring in next for our next interview?
Someone within Abuja or outside?
Anyone.
It could be anybody.
Yes.
Right? It could be anybody, right?
Yes.
Okay, the interview can even be online, right?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, so that makes it easy for me. That makes it easy for me. Architect. Okay, so I have an architect in Angola. His name is Mario Gorgel. His name is Mario Gorgel. I'll give you his details.
Okay.
I'd like you to interview him.
Okay.
But he's in Angola, but he's an architect and a project manager as well.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for that. Thank you so much, sir, for being on Architects Corner, and it's been an incredible section with you. We're grateful to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Happy to be here. I'm glad we had this session. Ticked it off my box.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.